Yeah, welcome back to Afiat TV conversation segment tonight, and of course discussing investigating narratives and disinformation about the Nigeria and Russia cooperation. Russia-Africa Social Forum was held in Moscow on the 14th of November, and it aims to help bring people together to generate ideas for joint projects between Russia and Africa countries. The importance of the social collaboration was stressed by the deputy of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mikhail Bogdanov, who greeted all the participants. Russian delegates, journalists, politicians, senators, enthusiasts, social activists came with an idea to increase educational exchange with African countries. They also highlighted the prospects of launching the project for young Africans who are talented in sports, and they offered to open sports schools in Africa. In the year of Russian chairmanship in BRICS, the country has organized a series of events aimed at expanding cooperation with the African continent. Russian African Social Forum, which is held since 2018, and the first Russia-Africa Ministerial Conference, which took place in Sochi, a Russian city, in November. Well, joining us now to discuss further about the relationships and cooperation is Yana Panferova, and she is a TV journalist covering BRICS countries, and of course the member of the Russian National Association of Mass Media Researchers. Good evening, Yana, and welcome to Afiat TV. It's good to have you here.
Good evening, amazing Grace.
It's good to have you, Yana. All right, so first off, you work with the diaspora community, especially Nigerians. And of course, you must know a lot of Igbos, by the way, of course, the culture and everything. What were the most challenging disinformation that you've had to work on as regards Africa as a continent and Nigeria particularly?
First, let me describe my Nigerian story. My friendship with Nigerians in Nigeria has lasted for around 6 wonderful years. I have many friends within the Nigerian diaspora in Russia, Europe, and the United States. And of course, if you know Nigeria, you know the Igbo people. But my connection goes beyond the Igbo community. I also become familiar with other ethnic groups in West Africa, in Nigeria in particular, like Ikwere, Yoruba, Worobo, Hausa, Boni, Ibibio, and I can continue listing. I'm always passionate. I'm eager to learn more about African cultures and traditional religions, your traditional narratives. For example, recently I have finished reading Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart, amazing novel. So as it is, not just by profession, but by my mindset, I'm endlessly curious about everything that is happening around me. And every meeting with my friends, particularly with Nigerian and Igbo friends too, it turns into interview with these people. So I ask them questions about their culture, about the experience in Russia, about the experience in Africa. Yep, that is how I've gathered much of knowledge about the Igbo culture, about Nigeria culture. By the way, I'm a huge fan of Afro beats. I love artists like Belash Muda, Omale, Burna Boy, Wizkid. And one of my academic publications focuses on the representation of Africa in Russian media. And through this research, I have discovered and realized that there is a gap in how African cultural events and generally culture are reported in Russian media. Too often people who are not from Africa view the continent as a uniform, as a monolithic space, completely overlooking the incredible diversity and richness of nationalities live there. And I believe we need to learn more about each other. And in this regard, we have a lot of work to do.
So I'm glad you've mentioned a lot of integration that you have had as a person, as regards the Igbo culture. And of course, by now you should have an Igbo name, but that's besides the point. You were recently at the Russia's Africa Social Forum. And of course, you had some thoughts that you shared whilst there about the cooperation that we can have together, Russia and Africa. Now, how much of work do you think that we have to do as the media in investigating narratives and challenging disinformation? And of course, how do you think that the corporation would help to solve the issues on ground about disinformation?
I have what to say on this matter. First, we must enhance the flow of information between journalists from Nigeria and Russia. We, as media producers, as media professionals, we have responsibility to show the world's true diversity and avoid reinforcement of stereotypes and biases. Collaboration is a key tool here. Journalists from Nigeria, Russia should work together, exchanging stories and their perspectives. We could also collaborate in the field of media education, like launching joint programs at universities or creating specialized media training courses. This would not only strengthen our mutual understanding of each other, our cultures, but also improve the quality of our reports. For the past 2 years, I've been studying phenomenon of cultural imperialism in Nigeria, and my initial interest was in specifically how foreign narratives impact local Nigerian cultures, and I researched the cultural consequences of Netflix integration into Nollywood. For example, like how globalized entertainment affects traditional African values. And in my view, Nigerians' rich cultural heritage, its family values, because you're very family oriented, and its traditions, they must be protected from these external influences and to avoid this risk of being overshadowed by mainstream trends. And I was talking about it on that African Social Forum, Russia-Africa Social Forum. Later, I became deeply engaged with the topic of media imperialism in Nigeria as a member of the Mass Media Research Association and as a part of National Research University Higher School of Economics Critical Media Studies program. Looking toward PhD, I have presented my research at various forums, and I delivered a report about the impact of the global media on Nigerian press outlets at the Russia Social Forum in Moscow, which was organized by African Business Initiative Alliance. I became an expert speaker there at the plenary session on the media cooperation. I have outlined the importance of collaboration between Russian and Nigerian media. And first, it should be, I believe, people-to-people ties, because only together, only in collaboration, only sharing ideas with each other, we can enhance better communication and better reporting about our countries.
Let's talk now as media personalities. I'd like to get your thoughts on how much of influence you think that the global news agencies may have had on the Nigerian media.
I have been studying this phenomenon for, I think, more than 1 year. Actually, I was engaged in these studies from bachelor times. And when it comes to the global media impact, yes, it is undeniable. There is a wealth of research from Nigerian scholars, firstly, on this topic. From my own, I have conducted in Nigeria, in northern part of Nigeria, I've conducted a research, and in your most popular media, I have discovered and conducted discourse analysis of this media. I have found that Nigerian media, they rather often rely heavily on global media outlets, particularly for international news. These outlets, these global media networks, they have vast networks of reporters, headquarters across Africa, including Nigeria, and it allows them to dominate the narratives. Sometimes it happens that these global journalists, they tell Africans about life in Africa, what happens in Africa. And unfortunately, this means that Nigerian journalists sometimes pick up stories, pick up articles, narratives, or as we professionals say, info hooks that carry the same biases found in these foreign reports. So they they inherit its prejudiced character. And this isn't unique to Nigeria. It happens in many regions of the world, including the Middle East and even India. But as journalists, wherever we are from, it is our responsibility to critically evaluate these narratives, the narratives we rely on when we're reporting, when we address people. We must ensure that these stories, the stories that we tell, are authentic and free from any prejudice. And speaking about media dependence of, let's say, global media streams, I always rely on one of the most, from my point of view, best articles of of Nigerian scholar Ololade Ofolabi. This scholar outlines and reveals the tools of how this media operates in Nigeria. First, the scholar said that they always rely on cultural features of particular groups. For example, the Yoruba ethnic group, who are predominantly based in the southwestern part of the country, they operated in monarchical system where the kings, obas, ruled over the communities. And this media keep to simulate this kingship strategy in their narratives. A quick reading of this media shows that they are focused on kings, so Yoruba leaders and other important Yoruba personalities in the coverage on Yoruba news. So they reinforce this discourse of kingship in their media. What about the Igbo? The Igbo operated a system of autonomous communities, according to Ololade. So there's one central form of government. The network focuses on stories around communities, individuals, and other cultural matters within the region. So reading, consuming any media requires critical evaluation.
I'd like to ask if you've had any, just in 1 minute, have you had any bad narrative about Nigeria that you later found out it was untrue?
You mean in Russian media where?
No, just personally.
Personally,
yes.
I have faced narratives. I would not say that these narratives are bad. Just people were not familiar with the features of Nigerian cultures. They thought like Nigerians speak African language, but we know that there are thousands of African languages there.
Right.
So it was a lack of information.
Okay. So we'll have to stop the conversation here for tonight because of our time. But we want to thank you, Yana Panferova, TV journalist covering BRICS countries and, of course, member of the Russian National Association of Mass Media Researchers, for affording us your time tonight on Afia TV News and speaking to us about investigating narratives and, of course, all of the disinformation about Nigeria and Russia and how we can begin to cooperate together. Thank you so much. And Kachifo.
Thank you for having me.
I guess you heard the last line, right? Do you know the meaning of Kachifo?
Oh, I haven't learned Iba so good.
Okay, okay. All right, so that's good night. Thank you so much, Yana, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on the news tonight. And on behalf of the entire production team, I am Amazing Grace Ajayi. Thank you so much for watching and good night.